For the first time since 2019, the Walt Disney Company might finally have a billion-dollar movie on their hands. Let's talk about the record-breaking success of Inside Out 2 here on That Park Place. Hello, I am Jonas J. Campbell, an investigative reporter for That Park Place, and here is my personal headquarters. I'm going to say you are Joy here, Mr. VashSky. Vash, do you think we can get through the day without letting sadness take the reels?
Pretty sure we can, but this place is already looking pretty blue there, Jonas. It might attract sadness. We've gotta pep up the spirits, and I will say Disney has to have high spirits with this financial performance of this film because it has really done gangbusters business.
Yeah, it has. I really do think that it's going to be Disney's first billion-dollar movie in years. Box office. Inside Out 2 soars to record 100 million second weekend in the U.S. It's 724 million globally. This from The Hollywood Reporter by Pamela McClintock. The Pixar sequel boasts the biggest sophomore outing of all time for an animated film and the seventh biggest of any film behind just Behemoths as the Star Wars and Avengers series. It even beat Barbie. Well, don't beat Barbie. That's she didn't deserve that. Joyful, ecstatic, elated, take your pick. Pixar's Inside Out 2 is on fire at the global box office, where it grossed a record-shattering 100 million domestically and 164 million overseas in its second weekend to finish Sunday with 724 million in ticket sales to become the top-grossing film of the year after racing past Dune Part 2. Perhaps they did it in a sand buggy. The animated tentpole about the emotions inhabiting a 13-year-old girl is among an elite group of films that have earned 90 million or more in their second weekend of play at the domestic box office. Inside Out 2 enjoyed the biggest sophomore outing of any animated film domestically and the seventh biggest film of any film behind such behemoths or behemoths, if you like that other pronunciation, as installments in Avengers, Star Wars, and Jurassic World series. It earned more than Barbie, which grossed 93 million in its second outing. So by second outing here, I'm assuming they mean second weekend, not sequel. That is a massive hit for Walt Disney right now, and in fact, it's better than most of their animated films. Here, I think Incredibles 2 did better in the first weekend, and Inside Out 2 doing better in the second. Why do you think that is, Vash?
Man, I mean, this is really turned into such a juggernaut right here. To give people an understanding, you could take the accumulated box office totals of both Lightyear and Wish, actually, combine them together, and this actually supersedes both of them in its second week. That's the crazy thing about this number right here. This is just unbelievably mind-blowing. And I think it speaks to a couple of things, right? I think people are hungry to go back into the theater for some decent pictures. And Inside Out 2, from all reports, it's got an A cinema score. It's got great WOM, or word of mouth, as we like to say. So it's got that kind of momentum built in, which is great. Also, too, doesn't feature some things that we've talked about here on the channel about what people don't want in their animated films or even their children's entertainment specifically. So it doesn't feature any of those things, at least on the surface. People will take what they will from these things.
Right.
And then 3, you're also talking about the price of inflation. So, that has something to do with it as well, I'm sure.
Yeah, there are a bunch of reasons that we could discount the success of Inside Out 2 right now. We're not going to focus on them too much, but I do think the fact that this doesn't have any agenda items in it, and they seem to have done what Pro and I often talked about here and on the Pro channel was questioning whether or not current day Pixar can thread the needle on anxiety. And it sounded like they weren't going to do that. Introducing the concept of anxiety to a 4-year-old is about as responsible as introducing the concept of hyperventilating to a 4-year-old. It's just, I'm not sure that that's a great idea, but they seem to have done it in a way that maybe a 4-year-old doesn't view it as a disease, a mental health disease that they have to deal with. Obviously, there's a lot of contention about what is the appropriate way to discuss this with a child. Actually, that's a great way to talk about the things that are missing from this film, because there's a lot of debate about when to talk about LGBTQ issues with a child. And that, for many parents, disqualifies a movie until they get to watch it themselves before bringing their their kids. I think with this one, those first week numbers indicated that it was mostly grown women who were watching this film, or teenage or older women who were watching this film. I don't mean older women, older than teenage. In this case, that puts it in that Barbie range where it seems like women can show up to the box office and drive the box office, in the same way that Top Gun Maverick is in that. I don't want to say it's a dad movie, but it does appeal to fathers. There's a lot of masculinity in Top Gun Maverick. So I think this one is a little bit closer to being a 4-quadrant film. That being said, Inside Out is a masterpiece. Inside Out 2 is a Pixar sequel. And I don't mean to insult the people who made this film, but it is by no metric is it nearly as good as the first one. And you have to have enjoyed the first one in order to think that this is a great film.
That seems to be the consensus around what I'm hearing about this film. As good reviews as it may get, it doesn't get as great of reviews as the first one. That's really key right here. I think as Mike Ritz also said, it's like, okay, well, going forward, you can't just stand on sequels. You really have to do great original content. That remains to be seen, as we know. What's going to be interesting going forward, and here's the thing. Elated that the box office is doing this well for this film, because man, oh man, the theaters needed it, the studios needed it, and Disney definitely needed it, and Pixar especially needed it. So everybody kind of needed it across the board. It looks like there's a win there, and that's good. Question though is that will families continue to support family films like this? Obviously, it's very expensive to take the whole family with the little ones out to a theater. Let's see what happens there. And also too, we'll have to see whether or not this is going to be sustainable success for the Walt Disney Company going forward with their films, or maybe it's just lightning in a bottle. Maybe it's just a fluke.
Right. This is the essential question right here. The next big film for the Disney Company is Deadpool, which is definitely not for kids. It's going to be not only will it be R-rated, it's going to be a hard R-rated film. So if you think about if Disney is a kids brand, okay, this is good. This is a very good thing for the Walt Disney Company, to the point where, by the way, the suspicion, like they did with Captain Marvel, that they supposedly did with Captain Marvel, of buying out entire theaters, that's not what I think is going on here. This looks like people are genuinely excited to see the film. This looks like we're hearing stories of packed cinemas. It sounds like theaters are doing very well from it. I wouldn't be surprised to hear that there's a big bump in popcorn and all those other things, all those extra buys that come in with the theater. This is very good for theaters. The question here is, between this and like Bad Boys, number 4, are they on now? That one did really well. So is this the return of the box office? And is this the return of the Walt Disney Company? Or are they going to turn around in Moana or Elio or whatever and try to sneak in those themes again to see if they can test the water? Or was it really just a slump that Pixar was going through? Was no one actually interested in going to the theaters, and it just so happened that we were all focused on Disney? Disney is essential for theaters to perform as they did in that pre-2020 era, because the last movie for Disney to make above $1 billion, if I'm not mistaken, discounting Spider-Man No Way Home, which was Sony, and discounting Avatar: The Way of Water, which Disney had no hand in the making of that film and probably didn't make much from it anyways, was The Lion King. And most people don't really tout the live action remake of The Lion King as the pinnacle of Disney filmmaking. Most people kind of, they like Jon Favreau, they like The Lion King. This was not the best endeavor from either studio, as much as I love the finale of The Mandalorian Season 2. Much respect to you, Jon Favreau. Good luck on Mandalorian Grogu. I hope you reach those deepfake Luke Skywalker heights. We want to throw this to our commenters. I know that this is a channel that has attracted a lot of people who have a negative view of Disney, probably because I also have a negative view of the current Walt Disney Company. We want to know your thoughts on this situation in the comment section down below. I don't mean to say, hey, Disney, we're going to give you a pat on the back for producing a great film, and also say, hey, don't screw this up. But we really need to say, hey, Disney, don't screw this up. Would love to know everyone's thoughts on this in the comment section down below. Like this video if you like this video, and consider subscribing to That Park Place for all the news that should be fun.
Thanks for watching That Park Place News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.